Peace, peace. Come on, we in the building. Welcome back to Master My Mindset with Mycol. Make sure y'all can hear me cool. I don't have a cam set up today. Today we just doing straight with the laptop, man. Straight with the laptop. We keeping it simple. I'm about to go live on TikTok and then we'll go ahead and get started. Let's do it. Come on, we going live. Make sure I'm recording while we do that. Come on. Come on. Peace, peace. Welcome into the live with Master My Mindset with Mycol on a Wednesday, on a Mercury day during the Mercury hour. For those who don't know, Wednesday is a Mercury day on a Mercury hour. And it's all about communication. It's about intellect. It's about understanding, understanding, collaborating. You know, a lot of collaboration through thought, through frequency, through ideas, through a bunch of different stuff, man. A bunch of different stuff. I'm going to invite my note taker in the app. Peace, peace. Welcome in. Welcome to Master My Mindset with Mycol on this Mercury day. Come on, where's that? I'm just getting class set up. Today, I don't know if we're going to 4 hour 30. We might just keep it at a 30 or hour, depending on what the vibe is like. Depending on what the vibe is like. Welcome in. Welcome to the Academy. How y'all feeling today? There it is. There it is. Come on. How y'all feeling today? Y'all good? Y'all good? Man, what state of the world are we in today? World's going crazy, man. The world is going crazy. Why do I say that? Because it's true. It's true. You know, I had a whole nother presentation I was going to go into today. Yeah, last night it just hit me. I was getting ready for bed, you know, going through my ritual, and I was like, man, we got to get out of this fear mentality, bro. We got to get out of this fear mentality because it's like that's the only way you can be controlled is through what you want to avoid. Your fears are not, they are not your power. Your fear is not your power, man. We are so much more. We are so much more than what the world pushes. We are so much more than what the programs and the propaganda push. We are so much more when we tune into who we truly are and we build that relationship with ourselves. When's the last time you sat with yourself and actually like commune, like, how am I doing? Not what do I need to do? What do I have to do? What didn't I do? Not who I was yesterday. No, really sit with yourself and ask, like, who am I? How do I feel about myself? How do I feel about myself on the inside? Got nothing to do with out here first. Everything on the inside. Because that's where the truth of who we are lies. On the inside. It's on the inside. Peace, peace. Welcome in, Sonya. Miss Jefferson. How you doing? How you doing? Come on. Come on. I was just sharing with the folks, man. I had a whole presentation lined up, and just with everything going on, I'm like, man, I got to take it back to the basics. One of the first, a quick story about this hoodie actually. DLiNX, it's my media company. Come on, blessed is she. Come on, that's beautiful. I love to hear it. I'm blessed as well. Blessed and highly favored. Highly favored. I wanted to tell a quick story about this hoodie. So DLiNX is a media company that I run where we talk about, we do documentaries, we do biopics, we do all different type of things and whatnot to just have more enlightening and educational, high vibrational media out there. And I saw a void, and I was like, I want to be able to learn this camera, learn this equipment, learn the audio, and be able to push our own messages because the media push what they want. So we created this, and it all stood behind DLiNX, which is DLiNX. So for number one, is short for delinquents, because I felt when I was in high school transitioning out into getting into the real world, I felt like a delinquent where I felt like I didn't have a place in the world. And just by being melanated, being knowing who I am, questioning the real questions, I felt like I was going against the status quo. And a delinquent is someone that basically doesn't follow the rules, and that's just what it was. But on the other side, DLiNX is also an acronym for don't live in X, fear the unknown, because X is a variable. So X is what you want it to be, yet most people don't know what they want their X to be. So it remains this unknown state. And this unknown state, usually when you don't know what it is, it becomes fearful because people like to be in control. And when you're not in control, it makes people feel like, well, then I don't know what that is. So most people want to fear it. Most people want to, antagonize it. Most people want to attack it rather than sit with it, understand it, understand it, build a relationship with it. And that's what DLiNX was all about. How can we reprogram what we consume, what we see, to build a better relationship with one another and each other? Which is why the I is the only one in DLiNX that's lowercase, because it's not about the I, it's about the we. We are we. So that was the whole basis of my first business, DLiNX Media. And as I got behind the camera, defining what your ex is challenging at times. Absolutely. Absolutely. And as it should be, as it should be, because our ex is what challenges us and challenges our beliefs and challenges who we are. And if we don't have any challenges, how do we know where we're strong? How do we know where we're strong and where we're weak? How do we know where to improve if we don't have anything to allow us to build in that strength? You know, Houston blog, you want to go live? I don't know who you are, Houston. Let me know who you are in the comments and what you want to go live with. I'm open to it. I'm open to it for sure, but I just want to know what you want to talk about. Welcome into the Academy, everybody. This is Master My Mindset. Every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Time, we go live on Google Meet and TikTok to basically speak on things of how to rewire, reprogram our mindset. So we're stepping away from the program of the mass media and more so tuning into our inner world and what matters to me, what matters to you, and what you can actually control, not what's outside of your control. And one of our guests, Miss Jefferson, Sonya, um, she brings so much good energy. I met her on my guy Chris's live, and I loved her energy. So the fact that she's in here and we're just talking about, X and how X can be challenging. And it can be challenging and it is challenging, yet that doesn't mean we have to fear the challenges, because truthfully, we get to define what our position is in that challenge. Because when we see the challenge beyond us, bigger than us, then the challenge will always stomp on us and overtake us. But the moment we see ourselves as more, and the moment we see the challenge as an opportunity to increase our capacity and expand our mind, expand our faith, expand our abilities, man, we can do some amazing things. We can do some amazing things. Welcome in, welcome in. So I actually have a presentation. So what I was saying was with DLiNX, the media company, I started off doing interviews with a bunch of different people locally to where I live. And one thing was always in common. I'd have a conversation with them. We have meetings, go through the contract signing process and all of that. And it's like as soon as we set up the lights, set up the camera, set up the audio, had all the questions ready, gave them a prompt of what we're going to talk about, I sit down with the interviewee, I press that red button on the camera, and they would just clam up. And it's just like you say, Miss Jefferson, like literally the interviewee will become paralyzed in fear. And I already let them know what we're going to talk about, what it's going towards, the story that it's going to look like, XYZ, my background, a team. Like we made them feel super comfortable, giving them water, giving them snacks, whatever they need. But it's like the moment we press that red button, everything changed. And this happened in so many different interviews. And I was like, what is going on? I'm doing all the prep work possible. And the reason why this is important is because when you have someone on camera and they're nervous and they're stammering over their words, they're being hesitant, they have shortness of breath, they're fiddling and fidgeting, they don't have clarity of thought, so there's brain fog. All of this affects the final product in a video. And the more you have to comb throughout those different lack of synchronicities within the footage, the more you have to edit. So there's more work on the back end. See, when you have someone that's confident, that knows what they want to say, that knows how they want to say it, and can communicate that effectively, preferably in small sound bites, you can cut that up. And sometimes you don't even have to cut it up. And the edit becomes so smooth and it feels like the person is having a fluid conversation. But when someone is like, I think, you know, uh, those are cuts that you got to cut out every single time. So it became more work for me and more work for the team. So I was considering like, how can we solve how can we solve this problem? How can we solve the problem of helping people overcome fear? Because it's like whenever we press the red button, they freeze up. But the moments before and the moments after, they're like, and it's a regular conversation again. And it's like, I want that feeling because people deserve to have the truth of our messages that come through from us being relaxed when we communicate and when we speak. So that is what shifted me to be here, what we're doing today with Mycol Academy. And the very first class I was inspired to do was how to go from how to go from fearful to fearless. And that's the presentation we're going to walk through today. If you do want to see the actual slides, they're in the Google Meet, so you all can receive this in the replay. But yeah, if you're on TikTok, I'll walk through it as well. You just won't be able to see the slides. So I'm going to start presenting. And this is huge for me because I consider myself a strong public speaker as far as in my lane and what I like to speak on. Yet over the summer, I went down to Atlanta for a tech conference, and we were doing this hackathon, and the team appointed me to basically be the lead, the captain, to present the project in front of the board and in front of the judges and in front of the room. And for some reason, it was the first time I had been speaking on a stage in a while, in some months, maybe a year or so. And I felt that clam up. I was like, oh, I feel this energy in my stomach. I don't like the way that feel. I attempted to do some breathing exercises, ground myself, did a couple push-ups to see if I could get in my body. And it assisted for the moment, but it's like as soon as I got on stage, I just froze up, and like my vocal cords became strict and constrained, and I felt that shortness of breath, and I felt a bit of anxiety, and I was stammering over my words, and I was like, oh, so this is the feeling that people feel. Where does this come from? And it sent me down the rabbit hole of like, I want to know, where does this fear reside? Where does this fear reside in me? So we're gonna get into the presentation. Let's go. Boom. 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 So let me unpin my screen. I thank you all for being here. Thank you for your patience. So, fearful to fearless. I had two parts. So this is part one. Welcome to this lesson on transitioning from fear into fearlessness. We'll explore how to move from a state of fear to a state of growth and learning. Because when I'm learning about fear, once you learn what fear is for you, it's not that it goes away. So, like you said, Miss Jefferson, with those challenges, the challenges don't go away. It's more so our perspective and our perception of them change. And as our perception and our perspective of the challenge of the fear changes, then the alchemy of the situation, the energy shifts with it as well, because how we see it becomes different. So what it becomes is different. And we'll break that down in today's class. So first, let's talk about what is fear. Because most people see fear as like this big, dark, scary thing that's gonna, you know, cause them harm or hurt and things of that nature. When really it's like it's so much more simple, it's so much more subtle. Fear is such a subtle energy, and it creeps in through these three things through my research. It creeps in through ignorance, it creeps in through judgment, and it creeps in through complacency. And what do I mean by that? That it creeps in through ignorance, it creeps in through judgment, and it creeps in through complacency. Well, let's talk about it. Fear is a natural emotion that can either hinder or motivate us. It is crucial to understand its impact on our lives. So, when it comes down to fear and ignorance, ignorance keeps us in the dark. To be ignorant means to not know. Simple. It means you just don't know. You're lacking information, you're lacking knowledge. Ignorance keeps us in the dark, preventing growth and learning. It feeds on fear, leading to stagnation and regression. See, with ignorance, when you don't know and then you fear what you don't know, instead of learning, it leaves you in a place of, oh, I don't want to lean in that area. And when you don't lean in that area, over time, you actually move backwards by standing still, because energy is always moving, energy is always vibrating. And the moment you decide to not vibrate is the moment that life begins to decline. And that's why when people are sitting up in hospital beds for long periods of time, if they don't get movement on their back, they can get those back sores, because there's a lack of vibration, there's a lack of energy, there's a lack of life going on back there. So it requires us moving, growing, learning daily, because through that learning process, there's more life to be lived. And that's why that popular quote by Will Smith goes around, that life is on the other side of fear. And more specifically, in this case, life is on the other side of ignorance, because ignorance can be a good sign. Ignorance shows us, oh, what don't I know? Oh, so in the happenstance that I get to learn that, now I can move forward, and I've just expanded my knowledge. And when you expand your knowledge, you expand your experience. And there's this quote from E.T. the hip hop preacher. He has a show called Secret to Success. And they talk about when you expand, your exposure leads to your expansion. So as you expose yourself to new information, new knowledge, new experiences, then you get to expand in areas that were once unknown, that were once in the X, now become clear, now become a variable that you can use and has value to you. So yes, the X can be challenging. That variable that's unknown can be challenging. Yet the moment we're able to get over the hump of ignorance and become knowledgeable of what the variable means, either to us or just objectively, now that variable becomes a value. Because even when you look at it in a mathematical equation, they talk about variables, but once the variable has a meaning, it becomes a value, meaning something that you can use that can produce more use to you and others. It becomes produce, value becomes produce. And we know true produce, real produce, it always has a seed. So therefore it can what be fruitful and multiply. And that's just one step. That's just one step where fear likes to creep in through ignorance. Fear likes to take advantage of those who don't like to learn, that don't like to grow. So, what's the second step? What's the second place that fear likes to creep in? Fear loves judgment. Fear loves judgment. Why does fear love judgment? Because judgment creates barriers. Mm. Judgment creates barriers. And those barriers foster a negative mindset. It stops us from seeing opportunities and learning from our experiences. Mm, mm. So imagine that you're in a space of one, you might not know something, which is okay. You care about what others think of you. Absolutely. Judgment. So one, let's go with that example, Ms. Jefferson. I appreciate you sharing that. She says, Ms. Jefferson said, you care about what others think of you. Absolutely. So with that judgment, well, with that fear, let's say one, in the happenstance that you care about what others think about you, when the ignorant step, you don't know what they think about you. For number one, you don't know. They could be thinking anything. Yet then, two, now the mind is starting to create a negative mindset around what you don't know. Meaning that now that you don't know, now there's a negative spin, there's a negative connotation, and there's a ooh to the happenstance of what you don't even know. So now that variable of X, the value is negative, and it pulls the equation in a whole different direction. It pulls it in a whole different direction. So now that you're in that space of judgment, it creates a barrier for the equation. Meaning that in a mathematical equation, welcome into the academy, in a mathematical equation, before you can ever move forward into the positive, what do you have to do? You got to zero it out. You got to get back to neutral before you can get to the positive. So many of us want to go from the negative to the positive. Is it possible? Yes. Is there a process? Yes. Are there steps in that process? Yes. In a mathematical equation, if you have a negative and the solution of that equation equals out to negative, you have to get the equation back to neutral before you can move back into the positive. So we get to shift that judgment going from a negative mindset to a neutral mindset, meaning that instead of fearing what you don't know, instead of fearing what other people might think about you, instead of fearing things that feel uncomfortable, how can we neutralize it? You ain't got to feel the best about it. How can you neutralize it to be like, you know what? This means that. And when I can build an understanding and relationship with what that means, I can neutralize what I thought it meant to me because it objectively just means this. So if it objectively just means this, okay, cool. Now I can define what it means for me because I know the truth of what it actually is versus what my ignorant judgment has made it out to be through the fear coming through. So then what's the third step? You got ignorance, you got judgment. What does ignorant and judgment lead to? it leads to complacency. Ignorance and judgment usually leads to complacency, which is a result of fear-induced stagnation. It prevents progress and keeps us from reaching our full potential. It's the truth. If you've seen any example of anyone being ignorant and making judgments based off of their ignorance, there's a lack of growth. And that lack of growth is a level of complacency, meaning that they are okay with the level they are at. They're saying, like, hey, I don't know what that is. Two, I don't like what that is. So three, I'm not going to mess with it. And the moment that we do that, the moment we create that negative mindset, that barrier, and we separate ourselves from something that could help us with ourselves. A prime example is TikTok. My lady told me to get on TikTok years ago, and I was like, I don't know what that is. Then I started judging it. All they do is dance. I ain't on there. I'm on the mindset. I'm on improving myself. I love dancing. That's not me saying I don't love dancing, but I wasn't wanting to do the trending dances. But it wasn't until I took the step to actually go find out for myself what it is. I was like, oh, TikTok actually has an interesting algorithm before the blackout. Yet it wasn't until I went to go find out for myself. So I had to move from the ignorant state to learning about it. And then once I learned about it, I could shift my judgment on it. And then once I shifted my judgment on it, now I was no longer complacent and I learned so I could grow. And that's where we get into the positive aspects of fear. Doesn't have to be a negative thing. Fear can allow us the opportunity to learn and to grow and to eventually become fearless, meaning that you have courage, meaning that you have faith, meaning that you have discipline, meaning that you're willing to move forward despite your fear in the faith of it's going to work out for me either way. Come on. Come on. So let's go to the next slide. Boom. So that fearless state of ignorance keeps us in the dark. Judgments creates those barriers. Complacency causes fear-induced stagnation. Nobody really wants that experience. Nobody really wants that experience. Some people might feel like they're stuck in that experience, and I get it. I get it. There's things I'm still working through with my own fear. I'll be honest with you, and let me not even claim it as my own fear. With fear itself, I'm still rebuilding my relationship with what fear means to me. As we all are, because it's like just as you overcome an obstacle in one area, there's a new problem that pops up. And every time you have a new solution, there's always a new problem. Solutions breed problems and problem breeds solutions. So we can continue to create in that dance because our problems will serve solutions that are meant to serve others. And the more problems we have, the more opportunities for solutions that can be created. It's a beautiful harmony. So what happens though? What happens when you stay in the problem though? What happens when you stay in the fear? Well, it causes stress, it causes dis-ease, and we all know what dis-ease eventually leads to when it's untreated. The big D. I'm not going to spend too much longer on this because we've seen that. We've seen that back in 2020 when mugs were in the state of fear. What happened? What happened when people were in fear? The shells was gone. A lot of people's health was gone. A lot of people's lives changed. Some not for the better. And I get it. Like that was a pivotal moment in human history where the world got rearranged and reset in a way that we will always remember as long as we tell that story. But what if we could shift that story? Because I know some people from 2020, their lives changed for the better. They got more serious, they got more playful, and they prioritize their health, they prioritize their finances, they prioritize their family, they prioritize their fitness, they prioritize their faith. Those are the folks that are thriving now. Because in the midst when everybody was in fear, not everybody, in the midst of when a lot of people were in fear, there are some that decided to be in faith And now their faith has made room for their freedom. Mm. See, in the midst of fear, your faith makes way for freedom. Ooh, ooh. In the midst of fear, your faith makes way for freedom. And it's all a belief game. It's all in what do you believe? In the midst of that fear, you could stay stuck in the ignorance. You could stay stuck in the judgment. You could stay stuck in the complacency, which leads to that stress, which leads to that dis-ease, which leads to the big D. You're done. Or you could neutralize it and you could learn. You can neutralize it and you could grow, and you can neutralize it and expand, which leads to, oh, now I'm knowledgeable. Oh, now I'm making informed and wise decisions. Oh, now I'm growing with it, and now I can eventually evolve. And that evolution is what leads to freedom. Freedom is not a binary state. It's not like a one and done. Freedom is an exploration. Freedom is I have the opportunity to explore without bounds. Without bounds. I don't bind myself to anything. Come on, in the midst of fear, our faith makes room for freedom. Come on. That came straight through. That was us. We vibing. We vibing right now. You know? Come on. So how do as step one, because this might feel like what is faith? And a lot of people want to relate faith to religion. And I get it. Yeah, I personally believe that faith is so much more simple and so much more subtle than having to have this big blanket belief over scripture and words and statements and prophets. I feel like that can be intimidating for some. And I feel like some people like to bend it out of context, so therefore it becomes impractical. And I like practical advice. I love the big woo-woo philosophical theories. Yet Mycol Academy is also about simplifying it into practical actions that we can step in and day out as we rise and as we rest. So, what is the first step? Is fear. If fear is creeping in, ignorance first, and we want our faith to make room for freedom, how do we do that in the face of ignorance? We can learn. And when I say this, that we can learn, the first step in the learning state, fear is used as a tool for growth. It involves reflecting, accepting, and expressing. Reflecting, accepting, and expressing. That's the first step. As we reflect on our fears, which helps us understand their root causes. It allows us to learn and grow from our experiences. So, for example, when I was on that stage back in Atlanta and I froze up, it wasn't until after the trip to where I really sat down and I reflected on why was I in a fearful state? What about that made me feel uncomfortable? What about that made me feel like there was analysis paralysis and I was overthinking and had shortness of breath and just consumed by fear? Why? What was it? And I realized a big part of it was because I wasn't confident in my knowledge around what I was presenting. See, during this hackathon, to give you context, we had like it was either anywhere from like 48 hours, 48 to 72 hours to basically build an app. Well, first we had to do market research on the specific problems that they listed that we had the option to solve. So we did market research. We built a team around it to organize roles and responsibilities. Then it was to build an app and build a solution for that problem that the state of Georgia could use as a potential solution in real life. And although that seems simple, there's many steps that go into that. And I was the project manager, yet also, like I said, the captain of presenting that amongst the judges and the rest of the room. So when it came down to our communication, I was in a state of ignorance around our communication because we had split up the roles. We had decided on a solution for the problem, but there was a lack of communication in the problem solving process. So when it came down to present, we had all of these slides together, yet we hadn't fully communicated why, what, how, who. There were key details that were missing. So when I got up there, I wasn't confident in what I was presenting. And I'm someone that does his best to honor my code, honor the code of integrity, honor the code of truth. So in the process of honoring that code, I didn't want to get there and just be spitballing. I wanted to speak on the truth. I wanted to speak on what was true to the project, what was true to the team, what was true to the solution, what was true to the problem, and most importantly, what was true to me. And a lot of those truths didn't align. I wouldn't have known this if I didn't reflect, though. Otherwise, I would have thought, man, I just felt it, People, so many people walk through life without reflecting, and then they just feel things. They don't know why they feel things. And then they wonder why they keep repeating that cycle because they're not reflecting on those feelings, especially as a melanated man. So many men feel like our feelings are just for females. And it's like, no, our feelings are more than just for women. Otherwise, men wouldn't have feelings. We have feelings for a reason. Well, Mike, is this is the Rockville 2 something. Rockville 2 something in a DJI microphone. But staying back on topic, our feelings give us context to our experience. Our feelings are like our sensory experience outside of our sight, sound, touch, taste, all of that. Our feelings are what in the emotional realm we can touch and feel. Oh, how did that make me feel? What was my experience with that? And when we build a deeper relationship and reflect with those feelings, then we can paint a more vivid picture of our experience and why we experienced that painting, that picture, that experience. So that's the first step within the first step. The second step is to accept. The first step is to reflect. The second step is to accept. Accepting our fears is crucial for growth. It involves acknowledging them without judgment and finding ways to address them. So, for example, with me, when I was on that stage and I reflected on it after the fact, I accepted that, okay, you know what? I accept the fact that I was afraid on that stage. I didn't like how I felt. I wasn't confident in my communication. I wasn't confident in what we were presenting. And I wasn't confident in myself at that moment in time. I accept that. And through the acknowledgement of that happenstance, of that experience that now has passed already, I'm not able to change anything about that experience now. And the more I attempt to avoid it and ignore it, the more it lives on in the subconscious. And that's a whole nother conversation for another day. Yet to really bring it from the subconscious to the conscious, so to bring it to the present moment, after I've reflected, now I can accept that happened. That experience happened. And I'm still here today to live and tell about it. I'm thankful for that. And sometimes just sitting in what actually happened gives us a new sense of clarity because we're no longer fearing the experience that already occurred. Something already happened. Okay, let's sit with it. Let's give it its space. Let's acknowledge it. We've reflected on it. We're accepting it. What we do next is we express. That's step number 3 within step number 1. Because we're still just addressing the ignorant. We're just learning. So step number 3 is to express our fears through healthy outlets like communication and creativity to help us manage and overcome them. Come on, you got it, Miss Jefferson. Reflecting, accepting, and expressing allows us to overcome the fear within ignorance. Because when we reflect on, oh, well, I don't know that, but this is the reason why I don't. I wasn't taught it, or what I was told was something else. Or in my experience, that was deemed bad. That was deemed I shouldn't do that. And I didn't know that there was another side to what I was told, to what I was taught, to what I was programmed with. You know what? I accept. I accept the fact that the programming that I had isn't serving me in my experience today. I accept the fact that what happened in the past, it happened. And you know what? I don't like the way it felt, but I'm not going to punish myself for that experience. And what I can do, I can express. I can get this off my chest of how that made me feel, what that experience was like for me, where that programming came from, so I can make it clear on what all of this is. This is the process of processing. This is what they, if you pay for $1,000, $300, $30 therapy session, this is a lot of what's going to be happening: reflecting, accessing, accepting, and expressing. You're getting it all for free right here at Mycol Academy. This is literally how you can work through those big, difficult emotions. And then another key they might give you is to break it down in pieces. So instead of looking at like, oh, this big trauma happened, okay, let's pick one memory out of that big trauma and let's reflect, accept, and express on that. Let's reflect, accept, and express on that one trauma in that big circle of traumas. And then after you do that, you move to the next one. Then after you do that, you move to the next one. Then after you do that, you move to the next one. And then over time, you start building clarity. You start building in the wisdom and the knowledge. See, you're moving out of ignorance, because most people are still triggered by the traumas because they're living in ignorance due to fear. Yet practical steps we can take to overcome fear is to reflect on the trigger and the trauma, accept the trigger and the trauma, and then express that trigger and trauma in a safe space in a way that doesn't hurt or harm anyone else. And then we can learn. And as we learn, we build more context, we build more communication, we build more articulation, we build more fluidity, we build more flexibility, we build more mobility. We're able to start moving with this knowledge. And whenever you move with knowledge, it becomes wisdom, because now you're expanding to have new experiences. That in itself is powerful to me. To me. And let me know, is this resonating with you all? How are we feeling? Does this feel like something that's actually practically applicable to your life that you can use and that can assist you moving outside of ignorance and into wisdom? Does this help you all? Drop a one in the comments if this is helping. Beautiful. 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 I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I want to make sure, because I want to make sure it's actually making sense. So then what's the next step? The next step is, quick recap. Step number one was, how do we move out of the fear of ignorance, not knowing? How do we move out of the fear of not knowing something? We learn to know, and we learn how to know by reflecting, accepting, and expressing. That's step number one, and the three different sub steps underneath that one step. Step number two is addressing judgment. And this is where a lot of people have difficulty, is in judgment. In the growing state, fear is regulated and controlled. It involves translating, transmuting, and transforming. And this is super powerful. Because once you reflect, accept, and express, that teaches you so much. And honestly, that really is the play right there. Those are all the plays for getting out of the three. That's reflect, helps you build on the ignorance. Accept helps you build on the judgment. Express helps you build on complacency. That's really the play. Yet the next step after that now is, okay, now how do we translate that? because it might make sense to me. It might make sense for me when I reflect, when I accept, and when I express. Yeah, how do I translate that fear into actionable insights that help me use it as a motivator for growth and improvement? So I've gotten that fear to a level of neutrality in my faith. But how do I translate that into freedom? How do I do that? Throughout the learning state, it's about learning a new language. See, I had a fear after high school. I had a fear that when I graduated high school, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know who I want to be. I don't even know who I was, who I am. And it wasn't until I took some time to ask myself that question of who am I? What is my purpose here? What am I meant to do here on this earth? What will serve me, and like what's my service to humanity? And in the process of asking those questions, so much came up for me that I don't even have the time for right now to go into all of that. Yet throughout that process, I started to learn a new language. I started to learn the language of spirituality, learn the language of mindset, learn the language of purpose, learn the language of certain religions, learn the language of me, most importantly. I started to learn the language of me. You see, they say it's easier to learn languages when you're a kid because your brain is more adaptable to new things, new concepts, new constructions, new formations. Yeah, who's to say we got to stop being a kid though? Who's to say that if you're 60 years old, you're not still a kid? Who's to say if you're 100 years old, you're not still a kid? Who's to say if you're 20 years old, you're not still a kid? In your mind, in you. So I got to learn a new language and I realized, oh, there's more than just learning new dialects. Dialects is how we speak to one another in a different state of tongues. Yet learning a new language is all about the formations and the constructions of how one communicates. So how do I get to learn a new language of me? Oh, asking myself those questions, reflecting, accepting, expressing. That's how I learn that new language. And then when I'm able to translate what I'm learning, then I'm able to move into the transmutation, which means I'm able to change the energy of fear into something positive, using fear as a fuel for growth. That's how that fear starts to make way for faith, which makes way for freedom by transmuting. You know, one of my favorite beings, because it's not just an animal, it's not just a plant. One of my favorite beings on this planet are mushrooms. And the reason why I love mushrooms is because mushrooms are not an animal and they're not a plant. They're a little bit of both. And then some more. And the super cool thing about mushrooms, mycology, mycelium, fungi, is that when you see mushrooms at the base of a tree, that means something has went on to the other side. And what mushrooms do is they transmute, so they receive the energy of what's been unalived. Mushrooms receive the energy of what's no longer here. Mushrooms receive the energy of what's decaying. And then they use that energy to produce something new every time. And usually, sometimes the something new can be poisonous, yet a lot of times that something new can be positive. So, mushrooms are the exact example in nature of how you can take something negative, shift it up into the neutrality, and then blossom into the positive. Mushrooms show us how to blossom from negative into the positive through transmutation. It's when you fuse an energy together to create something new that has now a new function. And through that new function, it allows others to transform, which is the final step in that growing state. We translate, transmute, and transform. We learn the new language of me. We learn the new language of you. Learn the new language of us and who we are. And by translating through learning that new language, now we can transmute. Now, from that reflecting, accepting, and addressing of that learning that we've done, now we can use the energy of fear, because the energy of fear doesn't go away once you learn. The energy of fear just now becomes a tool that you can use. See, that fear was a variable, and that fear can be a value of negative or positive, depending on how you want to use it. So when the fear is negative, it's using you. When the fear is positive, you get to use it. Some people in the state of fear, they become frozen. They're being used. Some people in the state of fear, they fawn. They surrender. They're being used. Some people in the state of fear decide to fight. They decide to fight back, and not in a negative way like they're bullying somebody, but more so the self-defense. They decide to stand up, stand out, and stand to move towards the desirable outcome they want to receive. They fight for what's on the other side of fear. They don't stand in what's keeping them inside the fear. They fight for what's on the other side of fear. We fight for what's on the other side of fear. We don't stand in what's keeping us inside the fear. So we transmute that energy so we can what? Transform. And the transformation happens through the experience. Through the experience of the learning, the reflecting, accepting, expressing, through the experience of learning the new language of who we are at our root, at our core, based on our experience, through the experience of transmuting that energy and fusing the negative into the positive. For example, me right now, I went from that stage afraid to now I'm creating my own stage with Mycol Academy to teach myself and others how to use fear as a tool. I started to use that experience, that memory of being afraid on that stage, into now saying, how can I help transmute this energy to help myself and to help others by giving a practical runway of how to do it? So now I'm able to transform, because every day I show up, I'm transforming. Every day you show up, you're transforming. Every day we make a new decision towards the other side of fear, we transform. And all of this comes together to help us grow. So not only are we learning, we are also growing. And that's the beautiful part of how we can use fear to make room through faith for our freedom. Come on. Come on. And we get to that fearless state. And the fearless state is all about transcending. We translate to transmute, to transform, to transcend. We transcend beyond our limitations. We transcend beyond our boundaries, our barriers. We transcend beyond what fear might have people stuck in. We transcend beyond the program, and we create our own reality. We create a new reality. We create a reality that helps us win and play the game by changing and evolving. By changing and evolving. So moving from fear to fearlessness is a continuous journey. Yet by understanding and applying these principles, you can transform your fears into opportunities for growth and learning. Put a one in the chat if this made sense. Let me know if this is a practical way on how one can move from fear into faith, which helps build towards that freedom. Come on, Miss Jefferson. You own it. You own it. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you. Do you have any questions? This is great advice. Come on. What resonated most with you about today's class and presentation? I love to know what resonated most. What's something that is like, oh, I needed that. That like that really made sense to me. And it's like, I'm gonna use that on my journey. I'm gonna use that today. I'm gonna use that tomorrow. I'm gonna use that next week. I'm gonna use that right now in this moment. What's something that really resonated with you? How to deal with fear and anxiety. How do you plan to deal with fear and anxiety? What's your first step? And there's no right or wrong answer. You have to shift your mindset. Come on. Come on. Come on. How do you shift that mindset? How do you shift that mindset? Dealing with fear and anxiety. Positive thinking produces positive outcomes. Come on. Come on. You own it. You own it. I love that. To shift your mindset dealing with fear and anxiety, you are deciding to think positive so you can produce positive outcomes. Come on, it's an equation. And it isn't easy. Breaking this stuff down, it doesn't mean that doing this work day in and day out is easy. No, not by any means. It's not easy, but it is necessary. Come on, visualize success. I love that. I love that. Visualize success. Come on. I love it. You in the game. Excuse me. You in the academy. Come on. And it's possible. It's so possible. We don't have to stay in that fearful state of dealing with ignorance and judgment and complacency. Just like you said, we can visualize a new world because we have the ability to create. We were made in the image of creators. So what makes us think that we don't have that power? That's why you follow me. Oh, I'm honored. Gratitude, gratitude. I'm thankful that I can be of service to you on your journey. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm grateful for that. Come on. Come on. And this is stuff that I'm doing for me. This is stuff that works for me, and I felt, why not share it? Because I like to, my way of playing with life is I like to break it down in pieces and then put it back together in a way that makes sense to me. And I'm finding out the way it makes sense to me might help other people. Do I have a book? Oh, the question, do I have a book? I'm working on it. And I appreciate that question. I'm actually working on a book where it dives into certain questions that we can ask ourselves to help us with self-discovery, that helps us throughout this whole process. I'm curious, what would you like to learn more about? And would you like that in the book, or would you like that in classroom form? Because make it happen. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I will certainly do that. I will certainly do that. Come on. Come on. You putting the battery in the back. You putting the battery in the back to make it happen. Come on. And I visualize success. I visualize it helping a lot of people. I visualize it allowing people to be able to find clarity in how to find themselves and how to discover their truth. And I visualize it, being a instrument and being a tool that allows people to redefine and redesign what their why is and what their why means to them, so they can go make moves and move mountains in the marketplace, in the world, on this earth, and most importantly, in their lives. I visualize it being revolutionary and transformational for the folks willing and wanting to do the work. And I visualize this book being able to take me all over the world, speaking on stages, virtual, in person, and being able to impact impact lives in the way that coaches really designed my life to be. You were like actionable steps when fear and anxiety hits. Bet, bet. Come on, come on. I'll give you one right now, and that's breathe. That's the number one thing we can do, man, is breathe. Man, that's the first law of the universe is self-preservation. And it's like the number one key that we need is to breathe. Before water, before food, before love, we need breath. So that's one. I give you one. Come on. You breathe a lot. I love it. I love it. Come on, we need you. We need you to breathe so you can be here. I need to breathe so I can be here. I love that. I love that. Come on. She said, make it happen. I will. I will. You reminded me how important it is to put this into literature that people can have tangible and take home with them. I love making the videos so folks can feel like, they're a part of the experience, and, you get to see me speak on it, yet I know it can also be transformational for those to read it for themselves as well. So I'm gonna work on that book. Hmm. And gratitude for being in the space, gratitude for engaging, gratitude for being here. You know, honestly, like it's in me. I want to give you a gift. The gift of I have a membership, and in this membership, I share more exclusive videos, more long form content that's around shifting and mastering your mindset. And if you would like, if you want to send me a DM to your email, or I might just DM you the link. It'll be a I don't know how long it is. I got to check on the website to see how long it is, but it'll basically give you free access for a period of time into our membership. So you can dive into the classes, you can dive into the meditation, you can dive into all the different things we offer inside the membership. And, whether TikTok is here or not, you'll be able to access me. You'll be able to access different tools, tips, and strategies on how to shift your mindset and master who you are. So I appreciate you for being in the space, and we might do that more often for the folks that come and engage. We might give gifts, we might give blessings, because I'm being blessed every day that I wake up. So why not share those blessings with you all? So thank you, thank you. Yes, yes. I appreciate you all being in today's class. I appreciate you all, really taking the time to understand that this is a process and it's not something that happens overnight. And as we learn, as we grow, as we transform, we get to become someone new, become someone we don't recognize, become someone that is of service to us and of service to the people around us. And the more value we provide to ourselves and the more value we provide to the folks around us, it increases our level of expansion. It increases our capacity to expand. And the more we expand, the more we experience. Our exposure leads to expansion, and our expansion leads to experience. Come on. Now that's cool. You do your thing. I'm about to hop off as well. So yes, appreciate you. We'll be here next week. And I'll see you, and I'll send you that gift for being engaged and just being your lovely self, asking questions, and also just sharing your light and love with us. We appreciate you here from me and the whole Mycol Academy team. I thank you all for being here. The replay will be available inside the membership. And yes, come on. Black Cherokee, one tribe in the house. What's up? You right on the tail end. I'm about to hop up off this thing. Yes, yes. Yeah, I thank you all for being here. The replay will be available in our membership, and we will be live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. We might make it available multiple times on a Wednesday. Come on. I feel you. Got that nap. Come on, got to get some rest in for sure. But yeah, every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Mercury day, Mercury hour, we're gonna give you this mastermind mindset with Mike Cole. So my name is Mike Cole. I appreciate you all. Let me know what you all would like to learn more in future sessions, and I see you all next week. Peace. See you all next week. Now, how do I end the call on this mug? Let's see. Oh, I gotta stop recording first. Cool. Bet. You can follow me everywhere at Mycol, METAMYCOL, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. And if you want to go to our website, it's mycolacademy.com. That's MyColAcademy.com. 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 Come on.